What's going on, folks? Welcome back to Bed Boys, your one-stop shop for all your energy drink reviews and performance talks. I'm Christian,
Brian.
and we are the Bed Boys. And today we got another solo or duet episode, I guess you could say. It's just me and Brian going to be chopping it up, crushing some caffeine, obviously, going over some topics. We tried to record just to let you in on a little, not really a little secret, but we're transparent on this bad boy. So we tried to record last week. Well, we did record last week, technically. Um, and my internet or my power, my overall just power went out about probably, I think it went out at least 10 times during that podcast, or that attempted podcast. Like it was crazy. So the struggle's real. We just couldn't even use that footage that we had.
Guy didn't pay
Um,
his bills.
yeah, I was gonna say, did forgot to pay the bills, guys. Sorry. Because you guys aren't buying enough shirts, bro.
You gotta buy more. You guys gotta
Yeah,
buy more
you
gear.
gotta buy more merch. It's nothing. It's obviously not my fault.
We can't even produce this anymore.
Yeah.
We're
So
going under.
exactly. So might bring up some topics that we talked about last week and try to actually get them on a usable video. And I know Brian's got some stuff cooked up for us too. So yeah, should we just get right into it here, Brian? I know you picked up something from the store and sat at two of the world's longest stoplights, apparently.
Sitting at a stoplight absolutely fucking blows my mind. When you cannot get it to turn the other way, I was there. I timed it. 8 minutes.
You were sitting at a
Eight.
stoplight for 8 minutes.
I was at a stop. I swear to God, eight
Holy shit.
minutes. It makes no sense. But I did get something. We've been on a little kick with these as of late, ripping a couple of them. I've had this one before. It disappeared from my view, from my sight, and it came back. So I was like, what, no better way. It is the sugar-free Red Bull Amber Edition, which is a strawberry apricot.
Oof.
Like that's just, it sounds like baby food. I'm in on it. Like hachi machi, here we go. Rick's sitting right here at 114 milligrams for 12 fluid ounces. That makes no sense to me. 112, that's C-bombs. This is 114. They said, we're going to one up you, C-bomb. Oh, you're a Gymshark guy now. Well, guess what? How about being a Red Bull guy? They came through, though. It looks great on the can. 15 calories, 3 grams of carbohydrates, zero sugar, zero added sugars, and 120% of the B12. But let's just, you know what? Look at the top of the can. I
That
love when
blue is
Red Bull
nice.
does that. I love when Red Bull, like, it's blue, it's engraved,
It has the
Mm.
bowl.
it's got the bull in it. And I just spilled a little bit on myself, but that's all right. One sip, everybody knows the rules. Stay tuned, watch the end of the video so that way you can get a full review, but it's electric. Do you get Dominican coffee right now?
Yeah.
You
Um,
son of a
could,
beach.
I was gonna say could have brought on a white monster for like the fourth week in a row, but I
I don't
was
think
like,
anybody would be mad.
I would say, well, nobody would be mad, but what's the point? I'm probably gonna crush one of those. That'll be like afternoon pick me up. I got a lot of shit to do today. Um, on my one day off, which is
Same, dude.
unfortunate.
I know. At some point, I have 3 bags of mulch laying in my garage, like next to my squat rack. Like, I gotta remulch.
I feel like I would rather be doing that than some of the shit I have to do because then I can at least get outside a little bit. Isn't it funny how like sometimes like the one like put this in air quotes day off of the week is usually like Sunday. It's usually just like
It's
I
not a
look
day off.
forward. Yeah, it's like just work from home day and get all the stuff that you didn't have time to get done because you were
Like,
having to do other stuff.
especially like in coaching, like you don't get a ton of like free time. So for us, like
No.
this is when we record too. So we record every
Yes.
Sunday.
And
That's
like
like the
any
morning.
right, and then like any
Groceries,
like right groceries if you need to do like I usually do laundry on
laundry.
Sundays. Um, I'm trying to think like any of like, and the thing that's tough is like maybe I'm just an unfocused fuck, which is definitely true in some regard, but like it's tough sometimes when you work in a weight room. I think you get used to it to some extent. Like I've gotten better at it, but like it's tough to like get like deep bouts of like work where you need to like really like focus in and like use your brain
Yeah.
when music is just like blaring. Like again, I think you get used to it over time. Like when I
You
first
s-
started like working in like when I first started working at Elon, I was like, dude, I like it.
I
I
gotta close
cannot
the
get
door,
work
throw
done.
headphones.
Yeah, exactly. Like
You
it's a
throwing
little better
headphones on
now.
with no music.
100%. Yeah, 100%. So like it's like Sundays. Like okay, now's the time to get all the work through. Actually, to use my brain and
Yeah.
get all that stuff done where I didn't get it done during the week. So, but yeah,
I send
go
out like I
Sundays.
I send out like weekly programming, laundry, grocery shopping. If you're meal prepping any meals, that's on Sunday.
Yep,
I
100%.
usually like get frustrated and clean a little bit of the house too. Mow the
Mm,
lawn on every Sunday, especially in North Carolina now because grass grows like 12 inches in a week. Wish I had that same problem, but and above and below, but I don't, which is thanks God. I appreciate it. Go to church if you're going to church. So that's like the morning, and then it's like at night. There's only 17 weeks of the year you get to enjoy Sunday night football. So I'm gonna do that, but
right. Yeah, for me, it always is like I wake up, I go for like a walk on the beach, and then just like mentally prepare for having to like sit at my computer for most of the day. And then if I get it all done, I might go on like another walk to end the day. Because it's like, I like walking on the beach on Sundays. That's kind of been my routine here. Because the beach by my house is actually like a pretty like nice beach, but it just gets super crowded during the day, and there's a ton of vendors. And obviously, this guy is getting targeted like no one else. Yeah, exactly. So trying to buy like a bracelet or a cigar or whatever the hell they're selling down
they
there.
they
So
put five bracelets on you and they go, "Here you go." And then they
100%.
go,
Give me money. Yeah,
500 peso.
exactly. So, but yeah, yay Sundays. So,
I,
anyways,
I want to start this off with something that we haven't done before, but I
okay.
think it'd be fun. I think we're gonna test your knowledge.
Okay.
Do you remember back in the 90s, we had this amazing cartoon? It was awesome. Basically, it was glorified dog fighting, for lack of a better term, but it's called Pokemon.
I
And
do.
every time you went to a commercial break, they had this small little game for the kids called Who's That Pokemon? I think we're gonna play Who's That Energy Drink?
Okay, okay. I'm like, dude, Pokemon, I was more of a Yu-Gi-Oh kid if I'm being quite honest. Because I was a weirdo. And then
Dark
I know
Magician.
Baku. Yeah, exactly. Trap card.
So here's how this is gonna go. I'm gonna list off some facts about the energy drink. You're
Okay.
gonna take a guess at which drink it is.
All
All
right.
right?
Let's do it.
All right. I have the first one pulled up here. So going through here, we have a 12-ounce can. It is 80 milligrams, and you can't look this up, so you can't cheat. It is 80 milligrams of caffeine in a 12-ounce can. Some flavor profiles of it is blue raspberry. We have a lemon lime, and its main standard of excellence is that it is real energy with zero crash. That's balanced energy, increased focus, and supported memory.
Sheesh. The 80 milligrams is where it throws me for a loop.
Yes, and this has been something that we've reviewed on the show.
Okay.
It did not get a fantastic review. I believe we did an apple flavor.
Apple flavor. 12-ounce can, 80 migs. Clean.
Oh, I'm sorry, it can range from 80 to 95 milligrams of caffeine. So
Okay.
that should be a pretty big help. And no preservatives.
Okay. Is this is it that focus?
No.
No. No, let's see. I'm gonna
I
blame it
know,
on the
man. It's
fact
kind
that I wouldn't crush a energy drink with less than 150 milligrams caffeine.
of
Ooh, are we rocking in with the Fit Aid, like the Fit Aid RX? No.
No.
Ah.
Dude, you are 0 for 3.
Um.
Over two, actually, not over three. But you know what I mean.
Apple flavor. I'm trying to think of what we would have done on apple flavor. I know we did
I
Celsius,
knew
but
I,
it's not that.
I knew I would get you on this first one.
No
I'll give you one final
preservatives.
hint. I'll give you one
Okay.
final hint. It's not a commonly drank energy drink, but it's super big in a military community. That's got to
Military
be a
community.
gimme.
I got nothing.
It was
I'm gonna
Jocko
be
Go.
Jocko. Oh my god. Yep. I
All right, oh
haven't
for one.
had Jocko in forever. Okay.
I know. We're 0 for 1 to start.
Yep.
This
Okay.
one this one
Here
should
we
be a
go.
little easier. It is a 16-ounce can, 200 mgs of caffeine. It gives you 100 or 1,000 milligrams of L-carnitine L-tartrate, 1,000 milligrams of taurine, as I'd stated, 200 milligrams of caffeine, 100 milligrams of Neurofactor coffee Arabica fruit extract, 25 milligrams of estrogen in a 10-to-1 ratio. I think this is going to be the giveaway here, but 150 milligrams of alpha GPC.
It's got to be Ghost.
That's Ghost. It is
It's
Ghost
got to be
Energy.
Ghost. I was like,
That's
I
Ghost
knew, I
Energy.
knew it was gonna be there down to. I was like, oh, Gorilla Mine, but Gorilla Mine is a little bit more alpha GPC.
Hmm.
Okay, that one was easy. Um,
Yeah.
I needed that confidence boost
Yeah.
after that fail.
Little confidence boost on that one. All right. We have we have an odd one. I feel like this is a gimme. I'm going to start off with the can and the milligrams of caffeine. It is a 12-ounce can with a very, very distinct 112 milligrams of caffeine.
Okay, bum,
It is Bum Energy. We're on a
bum.
roll now. We're on a
Yep.
roll now. Now we have another one, a 12-ounce can, 200 milligrams of caffeine, and its main extra ingredient is biotin,
Oof. There's only two
commonly
options
used
here.
commonly used as a hair and nail supplement. Biotin.
Yeah, there's only two options here. I'm gonna go with Alani.
It is Alani
I
New.
would say it could have only been Alani or Celsius, and I know Alani's like
Yep.
when you said the biotin, I was thinking, oh yeah, there we go.
It's it's a very, very disgusting drink. Not a fan. Here we go. We have a 16-ounce can. It ranges from 140 to 165 milligrams of caffeine. It has never done a sleeved can, but has always done an embossed printed can.
It's Monster Ultra.
God, you're getting good, dude. You're getting good at this one.
Monster Ultra. Yep.
Yes. Okay. I got a couple more here.
Here we go.
We have a 16-ounce can, 200 milligrams of caffeine. Okay.
Hmm.
Very, very broad range now. Right now, it could be anything. Could be anything. It's the only drink that we've reviewed on the podcast that contains a specific ingredient used to balance the pH levels of acidity in the muscles, known as beta-alanine.
C4. C Quattro, baby. Let's go.
Let's go. Say quattro.
C Quattro.
Alrighty. This one should be a little bit tougher. We have a 16-ounce can. We've never reviewed it on the podcast, which is kind of crazy. In a standard 16-ounce can, you're looking at 260 to 280 calories.
Oof.
It's essentially they have their own sustainable energy blend. That's a proprietary blend of L-taurine, caffeine, as well as carnitine in there. It has 160 milligrams of caffeine per can, and it's enhanced with B vitamins, and it's ideal for active lifestyles. It's great for gamers, athletes, and busy professionals.
You said 260 calories?
Yes,
Holy shit. Um, okay. Gamers and busy professionals, athletes, gamers.
they do have a zero sugar option.
I'm gonna go with Rockstar.
Holy shit, man.
There we go.
That
Rockstar, baby.
that was crazy. That was crazy. That was actually
At first, I was
I was
thinking
not
with that
expecting you to get that.
calorie. At first, I was thinking I was like Monster Java or something like that. But then you said gamers, athletes. And I'm like, okay, Rockstar's pretty big in like BMX and like X
Dude,
Games type of shit.
when I read that, I was like, maybe this will give it away. And then as I was reading, I was like, there's no way. He's not gonna make the two. Like if I said like X Games, it would have been like click over.
Yeah.
That was a great pull from you. Okay, two more here. 300 milligrams of caffeine. Recently, in the past 5 years, has gone through a bit of a rebrand, right? Recently, in the past 5 years, has gone through a rebrand. Has BCAAs in the energy drink and has different flavors, like such as cream soda, as well as iced tea.
I'm gonna go bang.
And it's Bang Energy. And dude, we started off
Bang.
really bad, and you have been on a hot streak
Here we go.
since then. A hot streak since then. All right, let me pull over my last one here. My last one. I gotta see if I can get you. I gotta go. I got a couple queued up. I gotta see if I can get you on one. This is the hard one here. Let me see. Which one's got the most difficult one? I got you. Oh, I got you. Oh, I got you. I think I got you on this one. It'll be obvious to some people. I think I can get you on this one. It is a 16 fluid ounce can. Okay? 16 fluid ounce can. 200 milligrams of caffeine. Zero sugar. 300 milligrams of electrolytes. And it is vegan.
Hmm. Yeah, that is tough.
At any point, if you need a another hint, I will give you a hint.
It's something we've done on the show. We've reviewed it.
It has appeared on the show. We have not reviewed it.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
vegan.
Mm-hmm.
16-ounce can. Vegan. Yeah, I'm gonna have to phone a friend here, call for a hint.
Okay. Here's your first hint. It's a 16-ounce can, but was previously a 12-ounce can.
Mm, that's tough.
Ooh, I'm staring at it right now on my computer. I'm like, ah, it's appeared on the show, but we've never reviewed it. But the brand has appeared on the show
The brand has appeared on the show. Ah.
in multiple episodes.
Oh, I'm feeling more stupid by the minute.
Dude,
Um,
when I find if you don't guess it and I finally tell you, you're gonna be like, "Oh my God."
let's see.
I know you're gonna be pissed when I tell you.
I was thinking first form at first, but we did that one review. Did that one review?
We did First Form, and First Form actually got an astounding review for
Yes.
being so at being at the time an arbitrary drink. Now those have become like a little bit of a staple. I put those into the rotation heavy now.
Yeah. All right, I'm folding.
All right. The brand that has appeared on the show in multiple capacities in some way, shape, or form, but most famously acted as our studio's table for our drinks.
Oh no.
Prime Energy
No.
with the Prime Cooler.
Okay. I don't feel quite as bad because I don't think I've ever had a. I feel a little. I definitely feel a little dumb with the cooler, but I still don't think I've had a Prime Energy drink. Only the hydration.
Yeah, man. When I
Okay.
saw this one, I was like, I know he's not going to get this one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's featured in. I think we're on what episode 49 now?
Yeah.
Are we on
We
40,
just dropped
48 or 49?
49.
Yeah, so we're this is episode 50.
Yeah.
This is episode 50, and I believe it appeared in around. I went back and kind of looked. I think it's like 36 or 37 episodes. So kind of
Yeah.
crazy that we had it featured in so many episodes.
Right. As either the table or the backdrop.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It was always
Okay.
around, but never. It was always the bridesmaid, but never the bride.
Yep.
Not bad though, man. You only lost on the first one, and afterwards you really picked it up.
Yeah. That Jocko, God, that Jocko one, that's gonna
I
haunt
had to.
me. The Prime I
I,
can live with. The Jocko is gonna haunt me.
we did the
Yes.
green apple Jocko, and it did
Yep. The
not get a great
sniper.
review. Yeah. Now I will say when I was going through like finding like drinks for us to kind of like go through, there's a lot out there that I'm like we have to like make an order for and kind of get going. Like I believe we should do like a Prime Energy drink.
Hmm.
Um, there's some Rockstar flavors that look pretty sick,
You know
and
what I
just
want to
there's
get my hands on? You remember Amp? I don't even know if they make
yes,
that anymore, bro. But
dude,
dude, the
I was
yellow
just
Amp. It's like
was
a
so
lemonade
good.
flavor.
Was
Gas.
so good. That and do you remember when Kickstart had like the it was like a top that you could like you'd break the seal and then you'd slide it up?
Yeah, Mountain Dew Kickstarts would slap too because they had like some juice in there too.
Yes, those were so good. And there was like a small amount of time when Kickstart like it was right when they were kind of like redoing some of the Kickstarts. Mountain Dew created their own just straight up energy drink. And it was just called Mountain Dew Energy. It was zero sugar. It was all of the Mountain Dew flavors. They had like original Mountain Dew. They had like a pineapple mango one. They had Baja Blast, which was insane. I think it was right around like it must have been what 3 years ago. Like right when you started at Elon, they had them around still. I crushed the Baja Blast one, but I was just waiting for them, and they were like, "Yeah, more flavors are coming." Like they were gonna do Live Wire, Code Red, Voltage, and then the brand just like got discontinued. And I was like, "These are insanely like good."
Yeah, Mountain Dew's had some legendary flavors. Like their original is obviously like good, but like
Yeah,
the Baja Blast, the Supernova, and the Voltage is for me like the.
which one was Supernova?
It's like a it was like a purple one. I know the
Mountain Dew
Voltage is really
Supernova.
popular, so that came back. But I think there was like a Supernova one that was like purple. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, it's like pink and purple, strawberry melon
Yeah,
flavor.
yeah, that was gas.
Do you remember they had the Pitch Black that was pretty good? I mean, Voltage is
Yep,
obviously
that's
unreal.
like top tier. Then they had like a
Voltage
whiteout one around 4th of July. I know. Code
that they
Red,
turned into like,
obviously.
yep. Do
Orange.
you do you remember Pepsi Blue?
No, you talk about this all the time, or you've talked about this on multiple occasions. I've never had it. I've never
It's
had
like
it.
every time like it was very similar to like Mountain Dew Voltage. It was like this like blue raspberry like lemon lime like crisp. Like it's so ingrained in like my memory from having it like twice as a child. Like if they made that as like a 200 milligram energy drink, I'm gassing it.
You know what that reminds me of is like off-brand soda that you'd find at like one like Quick Star, Quick Trip,
Yes. Fago.
Fago soda, like Fago root beer, Fago fruit punch. That
The
stuff was pretty
Fago, like
good.
mountain, the Fago, like it was like mountain mist. It was supposed
Yeah,
to be like super
Mountain
mist
Mist.
knocker.
Yes. Yeah, dude, that stuff was like that's like childhood memories for me.
And
Like
they were like 89 cents for a bottle.
yes, for like a big like a 24 or 32-ounce bottle. Remember like that would be like I'd be like helping my dad with something and then like for lunch we'd like go into town to Quick Star and like have like a sandwich or something and I'd grab one of those or like a Quick Star chocolate milk. The
Oh,
bagged milk.
the
The
bagged
bagged
milk was
milk.
unreal.
Yes, if you know, you know. Or like if you've ever been to like a Fairway grocery store, they'd have like their
Hmm.
off-brand soda, their off-brand pop. I remember the Mountain Dew one was Hillbilly Holler. That was what it was called. It was called Hillbilly Holler and had like a picture of this like hillbilly redneck on it. Gosh, that stuff was good.
We always had like it was like True Value, and there was like it would just be like True Value like cola, True
Yeah,
Value Diet Cola.
the most generic thing.
I think like the two like off-brand essentially like the two most famous like off-brand kind of like sodas are definitely like Mr. Pibb instead of
Yes.
Dr. Pepper, which Mr. Pibb does go incredibly hard. Back
Yeah.
in the day, get going to a Wendy's and getting the Mr. Pibb,
Yep.
unreal.
Or like a pizza ranch. They would have Mr. Pibb. Pizza Ranch buffet, anybody?
Yeah. Shout out for the homies in the cactus bread.
Exactly.
And then finally the one that you never saw anywhere, but you could always you had an uncle. You had an uncle. I know everyone had the same uncle here. He refused to buy Coke or Pepsi, and he would buy RC Cola.
Yes, I knew it. That's exactly what I was thinking of. RC Cola, man. RC Cola. Gosh.
My uncle Randy lived on RC Cola, man. My dad would go over
Yes.
there. We would go over and be like having dinner, and he'd be like, you want something to drink?" And my dad's like, "Yeah, just give me a Pepsi." And he'd put like an RC Cola down. My dad would be like, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah, was that? This isn't like an. I don't know if you can consider this an off-brand, but like, I mean, this is like this paved the way for the White Monster Squirt. Like,
Dude, Squirt.
legendary
So
name, by the way.
legendary name.
Literally
So,
drinking like, give me a squirt.
dude, Squirt is such an anomaly. So like, I remember it from my childhood because like you would see it always at like aunts, uncles, like family parties and stuff. But like we were like Midwest people. Like it was just like, oh, it was a cheap like grapefruit kind of soda that you could like use.
Mm-hmm.
I came down here and obviously like you're not expecting it. Girlfriend's family, they all just have Squirt everywhere. My cross country and distance coach, like that's his favorite soda. He's like, I bought a 24 pack of Squirt off Amazon, had it shipped to my house, so it's there when I get home from the meet. And I was like, Squirt, like of all sodas, he's like, oh yeah, man, I love that.
Oh, the
Dude, Squirt was
nostalgia's
a big
real.
one. That one or like Cheerwine in North Carolina, everybody loves, but Midwest, you're gonna know what I'm talking about here. A bottled Sundrop, glass bottle,
Yes.
unreal. That oh, talk talk about like, dude, being a kid in the Midwest, you go to like the bar for like pizza or something like that. Your dad orders a beer, your mom is sitting there, whatever, and they order you a Sundrop in a bottle. You feel like, dude, I thought I was 25 years old. I was like, I just need send give
Keep them
me
coming.
another round. Keep them coming, man. They slide it across the bar top. Oh, take 75 cents, go to like a dart machine or like the big buck hunter.
Big Bug Hunter, dude. My dad used to tear that thing up at. We'd go to Shields and they would have one of those.
Yeah.
We would tear that thing up. Holy gosh.
For a moment in time, not like there was no war, there was no poverty.
No.
Everything was right in the world. You're like, I got a sun drop and
Just
it's a big buck hunter,
yeah,
and
just Big
there's
Bug
like
Hunter.
a slice of pizza. Oh my God. And tavern style. So that it's square cut. Like,
Square cut, obviously.
oh, no one, when I bring up like square cut pizza, so like obviously from where we're from, like square cut is just like when you order pizza, you get square cut.
Hmm.
I bring it up down here and people are like, why would they cut it in a square? I was like, that's what you do.
Yeah. I remember the place that had like the bar that had the best pizza around where I grew up was called Wolfie's.
Oh,
And man, they had like people would have like their graduation parties there, like at Wolfie's, like at this bar, like because God,
Dude, like pizza, man. Ugh,
yeah,
that was always the best. Dude, I remember Packer fan, big Packer fan. Anyone that knows me will know I'm a diehard A-Rod guy. Like Aaron Rodgers is my fucking dude. Most talented quarterback to ever spin the football. I don't care what anyone says. You can say he's not the GOAT, you can say whatever. No one had arm talent like that. Pat Mahomes still can't compare. That might be a hot take. Don't give a shit, but I'm so right. I'll die on that hill. Watching Aaron Rodgers in like 2015 throw up around 500 yards a game, just crushing a square cut pizza, especially when they had like the nice little like a good pizza dough. My mom, when she owned the bar, I would go across the street. I would get a Rockstar Zero Sugar from the gas station, come back, and I'd sit there because we'd bring all of our family to the bar. My mom would make like 40 pizzas for the whole place, and we're just sitting there. I had my Xbox on one of the TVs, and I'd play Madden, like Madden 13 with Megatron on the cover with my cousin, and we had right next to it was another TV that had the Packer game on like every other TV in the bar. Oh my God, life was good. Why why did we ever stop? Why did we have to grow up?
I know. We're very far removed from that.
Dude, now I'm like, I guess I'll watch it at home.
Yeah.
And I guess I'll watch Jordan Love throw 3 picks in a game.
On that note, is that a
Ugh.
good time to change the topic?
Might be a good time to change the topic before I crash out. Ugh.
Do we want to just kind of roll with something we got from last week, or did you have something new for this
I
week?
say let's roll with some of the stuff from last week that was
Yeah.
unreleased news.
Yeah. I feel like we had some good stuff going before we were rudely interrupted by multiple power outages. So one thing I asked last week was how, or at least what I have written down. I can't even remember what we talked about because it was just so
Tumult,
incoherently not usable.
tumult, tumultuous.
Exactly. So one of the things I had written down was, or actually, let's go back to our Q&A, our kind of failed Q&A. I will, because the two people that did, or the one question that's appropriate enough for to air live. Shout out to the homie Hank Albie. We posted a Q&A a couple weeks ago, and I got two
Disappointing
questions.
results.
Yeah, one was funny, but can't really talk about that on air. And so the boy
Can you
Hank,
give the answer? Can you give the answer
yeah.
for the one that
So
was
shout out to Leroy Martinez for at least participating. He's the Latin American trainer down in the DR. The answer to your question is I'm gonna say three. I'm gonna say three, and that's definitely context dependent. Um, that's all I'm gonna give. But shout out to the homie Hank Health and Fitness, Hank underscore health underscore and underscore fitness on Instagram if you want to give him a follow. He says, I think I already know Brian's takes on hybrid training, but what is your consensus thoughts on it? And we talked about this last week, so we can just kind of give a quicker like rundown, summarize it. So basically, hybrid training. When I think of hybrid training, I think of what's getting really popular is people that are lifting weights and also doing like long distance running. That's kind of the hybrid type of deal. I think the
Mhm.
best example of hybrid training would literally just be CrossFit because they do a lot of different things at like a above average level, but not, one thing. Maybe they have one thing that they're really good at, but then you're just trying to be like a little bit better than everyone else at a bunch of different stuff. So hybrid training, and I'm gonna steal Brian's thunder a little bit here. Um, Basically, his thought, and I mean, I agree with this, is like hybrid training is just like training. Like if you think about how you train an athlete, you're going to train them to do more than one thing and be good at a bunch of different qualities, unless they're just like an Olympic weightlifter or a power lifter. You're going to need to be strong. You're going to need to be explosive. You're going to need to be able to be fast. You're going to be able to need to be resilient. You're going to have aerobic capacity. So in that sense, I think hybrid training is kind of the basis for what most people's training should look like. Just in general, like fitness and even like in athletic performance, especially with like athletes who maybe play a field sport and that's very like skill dependent. I think very general like hybrid training, if you want to call it, will will do them a lot of good, especially early on when they're not as trained. Um, I would say just remember, like with the biggest example, like I think of Nick Bear, who's like really big into the long distance running and also likes to lift weights. When you like pursue two goals that are kind of at more of the opposite ends of the spectrum, like you think of like ultra endurance running on one end and then like max strength, like think of like a ultra marathoner on one end of the spectrum and like a elite level power lifter on the other end. You can pursue both those goals at once, but just know that they're going to detract from one another because they're just so different. They're very different qualities. So if you're okay with kind of meeting in the middle and being like probably above average in both, if you know how to put that training together, but if your main goal is to get as strong as possible or to run the best, marathon time possible, you're probably going to be leaving some progress on the table because those are going to detract from each other after a certain extent because you're kind of chasing two rabbits and you're going to catch neither. So overall, I think hybrid training is like, again, do we need to call it hybrid training? Probably not, but it's sexy and people need clicks. It's probably just a good basis of being able to like, okay, can you go out and run a certain amount of distance? Can you lift this much weight? Are you able to sprint? Are you able to jump? Are you able to do all this stuff? I think that's just well-rounded training, in my opinion. I
Hmm.
think Brian will probably agree with me. So, if you have anything to add to that,
Yeah, the only piece I would probably say I'd add is that, like when we say hybrid training, I feel like it's still pigeonholed in a sense of like it's like long distance running and it's lifting, right?
mm-hmm,
And in many, and when it's lifting, it's usually more than likely it's probably either powerlifting or bodybuilding. I think a little bit more of like functional movement patterns, stuff that like is cross-planar, so like rotational movements should be incorporated into that too. And the biggest piece that I think gets left out a lot of it is like the actual like true athleticism stuff, which is sexy, but I think it's a little bit more aversive because a lot of gyms aren't necessarily like built to sustain some of this training, and that would be like sprinting, jumping, and throwing. Like throw a med ball, get something like to, I don't know, throw a baseball, like whatever it is, like do that stuff. Jump more than just like a box jump, like find creative ways to do plyometrics and stuff like that too. Like that should be trained. It can be supplementary to your runs. And even if you're sprinting, one time every 10 days as the average person, that's more than you would have. And that can help just increase overall athleticism and probably supplement those lifts. So, like doing that stuff should probably be incorporated if you want to be a true, like a real hybrid athlete. Because an athlete isn't just someone who probably, like, even you look at like a distance runner, like their strides are essentially like their sprints. They're probably hitting that at least once a week.
mm-hmm.
They're doing, most cross country runners or distance runners on the track team. When you see it in like a collegiate gym, you're going to see them probably doing more than just straight up powerlifting or bodybuilding exercises. And they're doing all this stuff. So like, why not just go for it? And like, it'll provide more variability in the training too. So it's probably a little bit more interesting than something that's a little bit more monotonous. So you have that variance. It's a little bit more fun and you expose yourself to different things. So I think like that should be added and it should be included in that umbrella of like hybrid training to be more of an athlete. And I think, not to sit here and glaze Hank, but Hank does a pretty good job of that. That guy's, let's be honest, Hank's diced, man.
Dude's a dog.
Like we dropped his handle, like follow him on Instagram, check him out. But like he does that stuff. Like he wants to do high rocks, and high rocks is kind of a little bit more of it, but it's less of like the true like strength work. But there is some sprinting, there is a couple jumps in there, there's some distance running. Like obviously it's a competition and it's a company that's gonna want to make money. So they're gonna have something that's gonna be very directed into like a 65-minute workout. But like Hank does a good job of like exposing himself to those patterns and maintaining some of that aspect of his athleticism. So that's my take. Can be neither here nor there. It's just some bullshit opinion, but I think if there's like five categories and you negate two of them or three of them just for the sake of like I'm gonna get really good at these two, and obviously there is the chase like five rabbits. Like they don't have to be an emphasis in the program, but they should be in there in some way, shape, or form to expose yourself to those patterns. Because what happens if you're in a race and you're really good at pacing, a 6:30 mile for the average person, that's probably really great. But then you get to the end and you're like, I'm not going to hit my time unless I dead sprint now, and you are incapable of that.
Yeah,
So
somewhat problematic. So,
Yeah. Um, I did have one. Well, we can kind of go two ways with this, I guess. Do you want to go a little bit more serious on the topic, or do you want to go towards like some of the fun stuff that didn't make it last week?
Let's let's go serious. We can always
Hmm.
pull up with
Come
the other
back.
stuff.
So one of the ones I was thinking of lately, is really we haven't really talked about this, but it's training plateaus and like how to overcome like big training plateaus. We've always kind of talked about like continuous improvement and stuff like that, but what happens when an athlete stalls, right? When if like you're in the foundation block and like strength is no longer a thing, it's pretty easy to say like we should move them to this. But what happens when they're like a more advanced athlete and like they get that training plateau, whether it be like a stopwatch sport where they're not making that improvement or like the diminishing gains are very small now? Like how would you address the training plateaus and making sure that there is that new improvement?
Yeah, that's a really good question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thought of it myself. Seems how we got no no questions on Q&A.
Yeah, I think it's a little difficult for me to answer because I've it's kind of misconstruing because I work with pro athletes technically, but none of them are very advanced
Hmm.
because they're at the very beginning of their career. So
Hmm.
none of our guys down here are going to really run into like training plateaus. But
Hmm.
I think one way to always ensure progress, whether you're, I mean, especially when you're like beginner and intermediate, is, you know, obviously you can stick with the same main movements and like overload those and progress those as long as you can. But I think that's kind of the beauty of like cycling like main movement patterns. Like still you're always going to do like your squat pattern, your hinge pattern, but like does it always have to be, maybe it can be a Zercher squat once, then it's a front squat, then it's a safety bar squat, something like that. And then I think by the time you come back around to those, maybe, if you run a 4 week cycle with each of those and then maybe you like recycle that, they're probably going to be a little bit better at them the second time around. And because they haven't touched them in a while, they're going to be able to progress on them. So that doesn't really answer the question of what you do when you hit a plateau. That's more of like my strategy to like make sure you
Prevent
don't
it.
get there in the first place. Um, but I think you have to look at, with a stopwatch sport, it's pretty clear. Like if you're not getting faster, you're not getting better in a sense for the most
Hmm.
part. Um, so that's a little tougher. I think you have to look at what's the bottleneck for that athlete within their sport. If they're not getting stronger, but they're already like, whatever you think your standards are, like a 2.2 or 2.0 times body weight squat. If they're already there, and they're hitting the plateau, it probably doesn't matter as much because they don't really need to get that extra strength. Then maybe you need to look at like moving more towards, I guess, what most people would just say like power style training. I just listened to a podcast with Cam Joss, and he basically was like, he had a good quote. He's like, "Are they strong enough to be powerful, and are they powerful enough to be fast?" Because at the end of the day, like speed is kind of the separator for most of those.
Don't tell me we hit another
Oh
snafu.
boy, power's going out.
Christian's power may have gone out again, which means the world hates us. And if the world hates us, then I just don't know what to do anymore. He's back. I can hear him.
All right. So as I was saying, as I switched to my iPhone hotspot, um, are you strong enough to be powerful, and are you powerful enough to be fast? Don't think that because your athlete is plateauing in the weight room, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're plateauing in their sport. And I think
Hmm.
we kind of get locked up because obviously, like, we're the weight room people, like, that's really important to us. But at the end of the day, like, know, like, how important and how not important your job is at the same time is probably what makes you good. Like,
Hmm.
especially like in a very like skill dominant sport. Um,
Like baseball.
Yeah, exactly. Like baseball, like track, a little bit different because that's like, as you've said before, that's like
Yeah.
the sport of training. Um, Olympic weightlifting, powerlifting, like there's only one answer, and
Hmm.
it's the weight room. So I think looking at the limiting factor and then going from there and like having conversations, like good example, like within my context is. we had a guy last year that like he was a really good pitcher. Um, he was a good athlete. Like his force plate numbers like reflected like he was like pretty like springy, elastic. Like he was solidly strong, not like the most strong guy. He had really good stuff, but his fastball velocity just wasn't there, and that was kind of the thing holding him back. And so like with conversations with like skill coaches, basically when you think of like what makes a pitcher good, and I'm gonna probably butcher this a little bit because I don't know a ton about the sport itself, but fastball velocity, command, and then stuff. So can you throw hard? Can you throw strikes? And what kind of stuff do you have? Curveball, slider, breaking ball, changeup, etc. The main thing that can be influenced in the weight room is fastball velocity because that's pretty much correlated with just like getting stronger, having more lean body mass. So for him, he was pretty strong, but he weighed like a buck 80, maybe not even. So it's like okay, if we
Hmm.
can get him to 190, I think that'll help. We got him to 190. He starts throwing harder, and that was kind of the way that we overcame his plateau. And that's more of a plateau from like the skill development standpoint. So, and obviously that was reflected in like his physical characteristics as well. Um, Obviously, the methods I think in the weight room probably matter a little bit more once you're hitting those plateaus. Like if you just went straight linear progression, maybe you're going to add in some more like tempo work, more of like triphasic approach, um, overcoming isometrics. Once someone gets like strong enough, you may take more of like a more plyometrics and less time in the actual like weight room with the movements and stuff like that. I've heard some people that's kind of their like take on that is the weight room is kind of like the secondary focus and the field work is kind of the primary focus.
True.
Um, but I'm interested to hear what your take is on that, especially with a sport like track. Because I mean, you're probably dealing with
Yeah.
this
So
like now in real time.
yeah. So this is kind of like what made me think of it really, and it's like it's not necessarily like training plateaus, but like some of it is like stabilization, where you're nearing the end of the year, and the accumulation of volume in a season, and in a collegiate track and field season, you start in December, and you're ending in you know May to June, depending on the level of the athlete. Like it's pretty long. Right. It's a very long in season, so I think a lot of it you have to train through in season to prevent a plateau. Which especially through like indoor, like not to give away my secrets, but like we deload for indoor, but we don't peak. And that's a big thing. But to prevent, I think like preventing a training plateau is like mainly like one of the biggest things. And that, like you said, like swapping in and out like main movement patterns, which will continuously provide new stimulus. I usually go on like 3 week waves just to make sure that there's something fresh. It's still like if you zoom all the way out, there's still probably a very linear progression of
Mm-hmm.
that like accumulation, transmutation to like actualization, and that like peaking phase, right? But when you look at it on a smaller scale, it's very vertically integrated to where like everything's going to be in the program. I'm just going to swap out like which one I'm emphasizing, and like it's kind of like a block periodization matter, but not completely negating one aspect. Um, and then it's like, what's our squat patterns? Like you look at something like that where it's like maybe I'm front squatting, maybe I'm trap bar deadlifting, maybe I'm single leg, just true single leg squatting or skater squats. Maybe it's a split squat, maybe it's a reverse lunge or a step up, right? Having those things be introduced as new stimulus provides new stimulus on the body that allows them to move in a slightly different pattern, but in the same broad scale like movement. And then that can help prevent that. Now, when you're in it, that's when you start to like a good coach is probably going to start to reevaluate their program and say, okay, well, maybe we just have worked a lot of basic stuff with like a foundational level athlete to where we went, very general. Like we worked on top speed work, we worked on acceleration work, we did speed endurance one, speed endurance two, and we've slowly gotten to like now it's like specific endurance, which the speed endurance like capacity piece that like kind of like gives the idea of where I'm going with this is that you kind of get from like the really general to specific kind of patterns on it. And now I don't say like general to specific in like, well, now we'll start to do like block work, right? But now our block work may become more directed where we're trying to find smaller pieces in order to push that training plateau, right? Where it's like, well, we exit the blocks very well and we sweep the arms, we do everything right, and we have a good pattern, but are we using the blocks enough, right? Now it's, is that heel kind of like putting pressure on the block pedal, or are we trying to hang it off? That's where you start to look at the really like minute kind of like shit to make sure that like we can optimize the biggest piece for that athlete. And it's just like the way that we say like there's a law of diminishing gains, right? Where now you're starting to get, you're fighting for milliseconds instead of like seconds or half of seconds. Like now I'm trying to get past that like that last 0.05 versus like get 2/10 off. So all the smaller stuff really starts to matter. Like, does the body over rotate? Like, I look at like a hurdler, and it's like, does the trail leg get initiated early enough over the hurdle to where it can push us into the next step to build a rhythm? Do we over rotate on the hurdle a little bit more? And you start to like really analyze things that at first you may have like overlooked. And in a sense, like when you hear that, you're like, oh, well, that's because you weren't coaching it enough. And it's like, no, it's just because like as you really start to build things, new compensatory patterns do occur. And it's like, well, now we kind of just move the needle on, okay, we've really checked this box off. We got really good at it, but now it may have either emphasized or created another compensatory pattern that we have to address. And then we just say, hey, we're going to address this now too. And we're still going to build that first piece, but now I'm going to really make the focal point of our technical work as this piece. And then you kind of keep going and going and going and going, right? And then you start to look at like just a pure sprinter, and this is where it can probably relate more to like field sports or like court sports, where it's like, hey, we accelerate really well, but our max speed, we become very backside, right? And that's when you kind of go back to, you can go back to like a basic thing of like, well, what does the hip look like in the rotation during max speed? Are we on a very bad pelvic tilt? Well, now we have to just emphasize like tucking the hips underneath us. Do we start to get strained in the backside of like a race, and now like we start to like tighten up and shrug here? Okay, so what is that? What is the reason for that? Is that because we don't have the physical capability and we're straining to get to the end of the race? Or is it because right now my basically my arm movement on that like cross-sectional sling, like is that tensing up? And then, am I locking the elbow and trying to be very technical, or am I being a little bit more fluid, relaxed, like creating that whip action from the shoulder to the hand? Those pieces are really starting to take things out. And I think that's where like late in the season, like kind of going back to basics is like a really big thing, because you start to get really specific in the workouts, but maybe not a technical analysis. And it's like when you get to this end, and like I look at like a taper where it's like not only are you like halving the volume twice over a 3 week span, so like cutting down to like 50% and then 25% of the volume to maintain freshness, but it's like how are you addressing that volume, right? Are you just saying like we're going to hit one rep and then be done for the day? Or is it like, or can I take that time, hit the same 250 to 300 meters of volume and break it up over cross-sectional ways of like, hey, we're going to do a complex of a dribble with a dowel for the way we strike the ground. We might do some skips for the hamstring activation and like the actual like pulling dynamic aspect. Are we then getting into like kind of like a float or like a stride in some way, shape, or form? And then do I put it all together and touch on a max speed where at the end of it, now you're primed up. We've probably worked through a lot of mechanical stuff. Let's optimize it and use it in real time immediately in, say, a 30 plus 10 or 30 plus 30 or 20 plus 30, whatever it is on a fly. Same thing with like a, you know, or am I doing like an overspeed training at that point in order to expose the body to new potential? But now it's late in the season. Is that too centrally nervous system like stimulating that it might fry the athlete? Right. I think overspeed training gets used a lot. So I mean, that's a topic for another day. But like in the acceleration work, is it's like, okay, well, let's probably do something very strength oriented. And you can probably frame this very much similar to how you would see like a French contrast in a weight room, right? We'll do something weighted or heavy. Let's do something probably free floating. So in the sense of like strength work plyometric, weighted strength work, assisted plyometric, right? Now I would say, hey, we're going to do maybe a sled pull or an overcoming ISO in the blocks, then maybe we're going to do just a straight up like block start for 10, 20 meters. then I'm going to do maybe something that's weighted. So maybe now it's like a resisted sprint, or maybe it's, I'm gonna do a bound. So it's very closely related to this actual situation, but it's not exactly quite that. And there's some kind of like difference, whether it be the fact that it becomes more of a jump and less of the actual like sprint. And then afterwards, maybe like that's when you go into maybe an assisted block start or something like that, to where you work through the patterns in different various forms to where you're not just over drilling the same thing, but we can still provide new stimulus in the training plateau in that sense of doing that, but we're breaking things apart. We can do a smaller like technical analysis of each individual piece, but the coach has to be very, I guess, like, I don't want to say like specific of like there is a derived purpose for what I'm doing in that aspect. And that's what I'm looking for out of it. If it's not that, and I'm just filling time, that's when you can get into problems where you get into like that junk volume, or that might just continue to push towards that training plateau versus something that's very specific and getting help to kind of remove those like fighting for milliseconds, like I said.
Yeah, that's awesome. What I the kind of the
That's
main
just,
point I got from
you know,
that is like,
that's in like a track sense.
yeah, I feel like the main point I got from that is that a lot of times it's not as much a plateau in the weight room as it is in the actual sport. Like, to an extent, like, yeah, you
Yeah.
need that general base, but like a lot of times, like, is the thing that's holding that athlete back from being better at their sport that their bench press isn't enough or their front squat isn't enough. At first, probably, but have they been training for 2 or 3 years? Probably not.
No, and I think that's when you made a great point in the start of like knowing how important your job is, but knowing how unimportant your job is like, unless you're kind of doing both, like you are going to be a support role. And like what you're doing is, and this is going to piss some people off when I say this, but our job as a sports performance coach or physical preparation coach, whatever you want to call it, you know, our job is to give them the most athletic attributes to then go to their skill practice, whether it be, baseball, football, basketball, fencing, swim and dive, track and field, whatever, that the sport coach can then mold into what they desire from the athlete. It is up to us to make them better athletes, right? Everyone gets tied up in sport specificity. It's like, no, no, no. We have to make them a better raw athlete with a higher floor and a higher ceiling that can then be refined in skill practice. And that's like the biggest thing. It's like maybe they hit a training plateau for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 2 months on a bench press or a squat. But is like zoom out a little bit, is what you're doing supporting them to go to practice fresh and healthy and powerful, then it's probably not that big of a deal, or it's not even a training plateau. It's just in the grand scheme of things, like the skill is probably being optimized and prioritized from the athlete, which is okay. Like you're still doing your job. It's just, does your ego get in the way and you feel like you're less important because you're not like constantly growing in this and that? It's like, well, yeah, but they might become better movers. Maybe they're moving the weight a little bit better or a little bit faster. Slap a VBT on there and see if it is the same weight that just moves quicker. You know, does the secondary exercises or those supplementary stuff that might be prehab or rehabilitative, have those progressed? That kind of stuff plays a role too. So it's like, don't be so tied up in like a specific one thing that that's what it is, and understand that in that supportive role, they might be still getting better. You're just solely like focused on like the one thing you control, and that like that's what kind of making you freak out and thinking like you need to make a change or need to push it way harder. My man went dark mode on me. He's about to tell me or ask me where Rachel is.
Yeah, it's starting to get squirrely here with the power. But yeah,
That's all good.
but yeah, that's a good point. I mean, we got to remember that like the weight room is
If we
the
need,
most general thing that we're gonna do with an athlete, and that doesn't make the
Mhm.
job unimportant. But knowing how where it lies in kind of like the hierarchy, instead of just like lying to yourself that the weight room is the most important thing at all times, is I think what is a good part of what makes you a good coach. So, and I mean, that's going to change at different parts of an athlete's career. Like early on, if they're really skilled, but just don't have any capacity or don't have any like strength in order to like produce that on the field consistently, then you're going to play a bigger role versus someone who's already like
Hmm.
went through that period of time and maybe they're lacking more of the skill and we just need to like fine tune stuff on the skill side, then that's good. Like you've done your job. You don't need to make that person
Hmm.
into like um, you know, into something they don't need to be for the sport. So
Exactly. So we wrap this up now that you got some power troubles before we can make sure that we have a good one today.
yeah, let's like salvage this thing before it before it goes oury. So
It goes bad. Yeah.
yeah.
I'll go first on that. Do you want to review your Dominican coffee because it looks delicious? Café con leche?
Yep, it's all gone. I will say the coffee down here. I'm not like a huge coffee person. I've definitely drank more coffee down here than I normally do though. So a good a good Dominican coffee is better than American coffee, in my opinion. I'm not as much of a coffee connoisseur as you, but like I know Starbucks gets some of their coffee from down here and like Colombia and all that. So I don't even know what to rate it because I'm
Colombian's
not. I
good,
feel
but
like,
like
but like Dominican
Dominican and
coffee
like
is
Puerto
like,
Rican coffee, that's some of the best stuff I've ever had.
yeah. So I don't know if I can give it. I don't even know if I'm like privy enough to give it a rating, but if I'm drinking coffee, it's probably pretty good because I'm not a huge coffee fan, but it's pretty
Yeah.
solid.
By default, it's got to be like at least a 7, 8.
Yeah, like an 8
It's got to
8.0
be a
plus for
staple for
sure.
somebody else.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%.
If I went solely on flavor, this strawberry apricot is so good. I would go like 8.6. If it was solely on flavor. It is such a light, crisp, and like refreshing drink. Like I'm thinking like hot day in the summer. Like you just need a little pick me up. This thing bangs. Like so good. And like I said, it's not like super sweet. The apricot is like just a little hint. The strawberry's not like it's not like candy strawberry. It tastes like strawberry juice. Like you took strawberries and juiced them out with an apricot. Um, where it falters. Not the can. Can is sick. We've already addressed. We love the look of a Red Bull can. It's so iconic. The little pieces, like the color palettes that they choose for their flavoring, the tab being like embossed, engraved, the blue, so sick. Price and caffeine content. Give me this in a 12-ounce can like this. Give me 160 to 200 milligrams of caffeine. It's killer. Maybe a couple of additional ingredients, like if Red Bull did like a nootropic, which I feel like for a lot of their sports, like a nootropic would be outstanding. Like throwing some alpha GPCs, throwing some neurofactor, um, whatever it might be, give some of that in. Like how many like action sports that like have to be like kind of dialed into free flow, like skiing, snowboarding, BMXing, all that stuff. Stuff happens fast. You got to be like zoned in. Put some of that in there. You have a legit energy drink, Red Bull. Um, and then price. I mean, like I got this one on sale, so they were like 2 for 5 or sorry, 2 for 6. But like if your sale price is $3 a can, like it's pretty expensive, right? I
Yes.
know inflation's a thing, but still like paying like regularly probably like 4.59 for a 12-ounce can is ridiculous. And for that reason, I'm out. So I'm gonna drop this thing down to like I feel so bad, but like this thing it drops down to like a 7.1. Still so solid, carried by the flavor and the look of the can, but ingredients just lack a little bit, and then the price of the can just kills you. Um, yeah, but what a good flavor though.
Yeah, $5, almost $5 a can is outrageous.
Yeah, it's insane. At that point, I'm gonna go get a Dominican coffee,
Exactly. I mean, you can go to Starbucks and get a coffee for that price.
which is insane that like you're comparing it to Starbucks as like a value.
Yeah, because Starbucks is crazy expensive.
I know.
So
Um, But yeah, that's kind of it for today. Today is the 50th episode, correct?
yes, sir.
So I mean, that's a big point for us. Um, what we would love to do is probably now that we've hit 50, that's a big episode. There can probably be like a $50 value of some which if we can get to 100 subscribers on YouTube, we'll do a nice little giveaway for everybody. Whether that be a hoodie, that might be probably the most like economical thing to do for us, seeing how we don't make a ton of money, which is why we're trying to push to like that 100 and then 500 subscribers.
Yes.
Um, but I'm willing to go into my own pocket and give that away. If we can get to 100 subscribers, we will do a giveaway to one of our 5 listeners, or at that point, hopefully one of our 100 listeners. And we'll do something nice for you, and we'll get you a shout out on the podcast as well. But for sure, follow us on Instagram. It's at bevboys.tv. You can follow myself at bszukuski, BSZUT KOWSKI. Don't know why I spaced on my own last name, but training content, the podcast clips go up on there as well. You can actually kind of follow along with the track season. I post about that as well. Follow French. He is French underscore fit 40 on Instagram. It's a legit Instagram account. He posts training content daily. You'll see stuff that, you can see the beautiful DR Cubs facility that he's training in. Doesn't always post a ton with his athletes, but he posts a lot of his ideas. And I think that's a big thing too, is even if you can't utilize exactly what you want, getting some ideas and free floating that stuff around. Follow us on Spotify, subscribe to us on YouTube. That's where we want to get to 100 subscribers. Definitely, if you don't want to wait for a giveaway, go pick up a shirt on bevboys.com. It's a legit website. I promise you. We purchased the domain from GoDaddy in like 2024. It's really cool. There's some cool pictures of us and then definitely some great gear. And finally, just like the video, comment to us. It helps us out, pushes us in the algorithm. But we will see you in the next one.
Peace.
Peace.